this is going to be great.
Welcome to the White House Pod with David A.R.
We have an unbelievable guest today. He is a legend. He has done so many things, and I am pleased to... I could read this whole thing out, but there's like 13 pages of what your bio is. So, what? Ladies and gentlemen...
Well, you pull it off of Wikipedia?
I mean, it's...
Don't read that.
I would like to introduce Isaiah, the legend, the man, wearing a Stetson hat, and baby. My friend, I'm proud to announce, Mr. Washington. Isaiah Washington, thank you so much for being here.
Hey, man, I appreciate it, man. I want to continue the brand. I think, it's a good thing. We should take the show on the road. I have nothing else to do. But anyway, I'm sorry.
Now, are you really retired? I have to just ask this question right off the bat. Retired?
Yeah. I received my retirement package, which is a pretty good retirement package. I didn't realize I was putting that much money into the system in 35 years. But, I will never spend it in this lifetime. It will take me about 100 years to get through it.
Yeah.
But right now, every first of the month, I just have a good old time. You know what I mean? I've never in my career have guaranteed income.
Right.
For 35 years.
Huh.
Plus residuals, plus what I get on other revenue streams. It is exciting. It truly is. I am like a truly emancipated Negro. It's amazing. Jubilee. It is. I'm serious. If you get it, you get it. I mean, I'm truly emancipated, and I can truly, really enjoy free speech as long as we have it. Because it's an amazing feeling at 60. I'm 60 years old. So it's like, wow.
Does Isaiah look 1 year older? Roger, he looks the same. You literally haven't aged in 30
No, he looks the same as he did 30 years ago.
I think we need to start over. I just insulted and offended everybody in the room. So, that was not a good thing.
Did you?
Yeah, saying I'm 60 and I look great. That's okay. That's cut. That's not gonna work. No, I'm just joking. Come on, right there. I did that on the set of a really movie that I just saw called The Amateurs. I just broke character and just started going off.
Oh my gosh.
And Jeff Bridges went.
It's like
you really like,
I was the same.
There's a Jeff Bridges moment. Okay, let's go.
Oh my gosh! All right, I'm reading this because we have to start. Like, where are you from? Are you from Texas originally? You got the Stetson hat going on here.
Differently because of my book. So yes, I was born in Houston, Texas, in 1963, but through genealogy, I realized that. My ancestors reigned from what we now call Angola with the Mbundu people, and on my mother's side reigned from the Mindi Timni people, which is now what we call Sierra Leone, which I did a lot of work for 10 years. When people didn't know what I was doing in the industry, I was building schools and putting in water systems and trying to do our best to help like over 6,000 people in my village in West Africa called Bo. Through my foundation. All that was almost kind of like a long time ago, but I had a great time doing it, and I learned a lot.
Are you still doing that now, or is it?
No.
Once they got their water systems in and everything?
It's just very poor, and unfortunately, people underestimate corruption. Poverty doesn't create corruption. Corruption creates poverty. And we're kind of seeing that, unfortunately, now in America.
Yeah. All right. So I'm pressing on here because I at least have to get to when did you get to L.A.?
I'm trying to control.
Isaiah's deep. If you haven't noticed this,
I can control the interview. Really, I've been doing this a long time. No. I believe that. I got here. I fled.
I've worked with you. I understand.
I fled Brooklyn, New York, due to the night. It's dead serious. I'm not joking. I literally fled Brooklyn, New York in 1996 because I was terrified of what was happening in Brooklyn at the time because of the 94 crime bill that was put out by Clinton and Biden. Because I looked young my whole life, even though I was in my early 30s, I looked like I was 19 or 20.
He still looks younger than me. Right?
You see what I'm saying? It was really problematic because I was really at risk. My life was at risk multiple times, being stopped and frisked by police officers, and I was really concerned that I would have crack actually planted on me and put in my backpack.
So how old were you?
I was 31, but I looked like I was 21.
Right.
So I was a target. luckily, I fell in love with a woman who happened to live here. She came to Brooklyn, and we decided to get married. She went back to New York, didn't even date. No, we just wrote letters to each other for 3 months. Never dated, never saw her again. Came to L.A. when I did a TV show here, and I asked her to marry me on Venice Beach, and we've been living on Venice Beach for the last 27 years. True story.
Unbelievable.
True love story.
Wow. Was that, I mean, like...
In 1996, when I left.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. It was actually it was the worst year of the nor'easter. They had like what we call nor'easters, really bad weather, where it was so cold that literally the telephone lines, they were cracking, popping off from the cold. Like imagine these coaxial cables literally snapping. And when I saw them snapping, I just thought that was like a God says, like it's time.
Maybe I should go somewhere warmer.
Go somewhere else.
I mean,
get out of here. That was my final sign for me from God. Like you need to get out of here,
seeing
bro.
the lightning bolt
that's
coming out of it.
Pretty much.
Is that when you? Okay, so you came out here. What was your first job when you got to L.A.?
Well, actually, it was interesting because as soon as I came to L.A., I got booked for a 3-episode arc on New York Undercover. So I had to go back to New York and do work. It was so strange.
That is so
I came
ironic.
here and then got all these offers to go back to New York. It was almost like, being a runaway slave. And then the patty rollers just pulled me back in. Well, I had to get that in there, playing Bass Reeves. Nice. You caught that right. Anyway.
We'll talk about that when we get there, yeah. But did you... by the way, this the White House Pod in no way endorses whatever Isaiah Washington says here, and or Dylan, Roger, Tony, David.
Spoken like a president.
All right, wait. So, did you in your 20s? Did you move though? Were you in New York doing theater in your 20s, or soaps, or what were you doing in your 20s?
Actually, I was having a midlife crisis at 23. I'd done 4 years in the military. I talk about this on my podcast. I'd already been...
What's your podcast called?
Isaiah Washington Speaks Again. It's on Spotify.
Okay.
I'm still 19 years old.
Okay.
And I cover all that. It's that I got involved with a lot of corruption and did a lot of dumb things and ended up being shot because of it. And, once you get shot and you think you're going to die, you kind of go,
Where'd you get shot?
I hit the hip.
In the hip?
Yeah, I can't shoot the bullet hole down.
Well, yeah,
That'd
it's a little bit weird.
But just trust me.
But I mean, yeah, it's YouTube. I think we can show that, right, guys?
Could be interesting, but no.
Like from the back? Or?
I was running from some enemies. Yeah.
Wow.
And this is in the military in the Philippines.
Where in the Philippines?
Yeah.
Okay.
It was during Marcos days in the 80s, so it was a lot going on
Yeah.
in the Philippines with Marcos. Wow. Yeah, a lot of corruption going on. Unfortunately, I just
was anybody in your family from the military?
Oh, yeah. All of my except for my biological father, most of my grandfather was in, and uncles was one of them was in Korea. My uncle's in Korean War. I grew up seeing a black eagle, a bald eagle on everybody's uniform. I thought everybody had it. It was like they were the airborne.
Yeah.
So it was either in Texas, you either became a professional football player, or you joined the military, or you go to work at the post office for benefits. Those were your options in Texas.
Wow. Okay.
So, or prison, the penitentiary.
Glad you didn't choose
that. But most of my first cousins all were recidivists. If you look at recidivism, you'll see a lot of my cousins' faces. They were in and out of prison my whole young life. I was the only one, literally, that went to college, and the one that escaped the penitentiary so far.
Okay, so far,
so good.
So knock on something and ask the Lord's favor on that.
Yeah.
What? When did the acting bug hit you? When you were in the military, or like
at the age of 23, I was working after I got out of the military. Through affirmative action, I got a job with a company that had business dealings with a Swedish company in Linköping, Sweden. And through my engineering background, I studied aerospace engineering while I was in the military through Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University. While I was in the military, because I was supposed to get out. I was such a, what we call an 8-up airman, or so, the term 8-up, I was so about being in the military with the spit-shine boots and the crisp, uniforms. I was scheduled to do what they call cross-training work for the Northrop T-38 aircraft, which is what back then in '82 the Thunderbirds flew. And at the point I was supposed to become the first African American or black, major Top Gun mechanic, the Thunderbirds crashed that year.
Okay.
So it was like the Challenger crashing later in my life. So that
did they just end the program then?
Ended a program and they lost interest. But at that point, I was pretty depressed. I didn't know it because I really wanted that job. I really wanted to be a part of that.
Yeah.
My aircraft was one of the top static display airplanes from Langley, Alabama. It was like wherever my airplane went to be shown, as showcased, I was with it. And I flew in the back seat. And in the military, I got a picture. I put that on Instagram. The officers, you got to get a kick out of it. That's why I think I really got the acting bug, because they would put a captain's bars on my flight suit. So I had all these butter bars saluting me everywhere we went. And they was like, this black guy, they think he's a captain. They thought that was funny.
Okay.
It's true.
I guess, yeah, especially at that time, too.
It was great. I mean, to have all these young guys from Kentucky and Alabama looking at me with Captain Bars going, what's up, sir? Man, it was the biggest gas, but I played it to the hilt because I knew so much about the T-38.
And you were a brilliant actor.
Of course, he can fly. So I had to act then not knowing. So I couldn't blow my cover because then my superior officers would be upset and embarrassed.
Yeah.
Like, dude, you just failed the test. You don't sound
the uniform,
you don't
too,
sound like a
and the whole
captain.
thing,
So from there, when I got out of the military, because I saw a lot of things I didn't like during the Reagan era, asked too many questions, I got out thinking that I was going to come back in and fly F-16s. I got stellar letters from all my commanding officers to come back, finish my education for about a year out at Maryland as aerospace engineering, and then come back and fly the F-16s. That was my goal.
Wow.
But when I got out, I think I was just depressed and didn't know it at 23. And I just didn't want to do anything. I was married. I got out of that marriage. Sabotaged a job. I ended up homeless. I just hit
in New York, right?
This was in Gaithersburg, Maryland. By this time, because I went to D.C. once I got out of the military in '85.
Okay.
I followed my first wife, who was in the Army, who I married on my 21st birthday. My mom told me not to do it. It was a bad idea. Too young. And at that point, because of all those different choices and all the different bad choices that I've made, because I didn't have the proper leadership, as a father, I was pretty fatherless, even though I had a stepfather. We didn't get along. So all those kind of fatherlessness issues got me in a lot of trouble in my early life. But I was able to correct that by discovering that I was a pretty good actor in a church.
Did a church play kind of thing?
In a church play.
Okay.
When I was 23, and that started it. And
is that how, did you kind of go back to church, or was that the beginning of your church?
Here's the true story. I've told it numerous times. I'll tell it again, is that I was temping at IBM, and I was so good at being an expediter or being on the phone and convincing people to pay their bills on time. It was like,
I believe that.
It's like,
I sent Isaiah a check this morning. I don't know why.
I don't know. It was a nice of humor, but yet a little sense of being threatened. They didn't know if I was going to just show up. So the president of IBM in Gaithersburg wanted to know who the guy was in the basement that was bringing all this money in as an expediter.
Right.
And everyone got intimidated. It's like, he's taking over. He's taking my shine. And my superior, my boss, Cynthia, I had a crush on her. And because I was getting all this attention, and I wore earrings. And
you're 23 at this time?
23 now. I'm 23 now. And she says, well, if you want to date me, you have to come to church. I said, okay. And she says, not only come to church, but you have to be born again. You have to be saved. You have to get baptized. And I was like, whatever. Whatever. I'll be dunked in the water. I don't care. It's been about 2 years now. I don't care. Whatever. Got to the church. Got baptized. And I can remember it like yesterday. Our fogging came up, and I couldn't see anyone in the room. I just felt like I was transported somewhere. I fell in love with Jesus Christ so hard that no one wanted to be around me. All I talked about was Jesus Christ. All I talked about was the gospel, and didn't want to have sex, didn't want her, didn't want anything. And it actually got me out of that job because I was trying to convert everybody.
Wow, on the
you
phone
know
now,
how
yeah.
it is being a new Christian.
Yeah.
It's very powerful. And that got me in the Christian plays. And then they said, my musical director said, you probably, take this seriously, get some real training. I ended up reading a book by Oscar Brockett that mentioned Ossie Davis, who I ended up working with years later with Spike Lee, Get on the Bus.
Yeah.
Went to Howard University campus, and I was selling pots and pans out of the back of my car. Wasn't paying any bills, because once I lost the temp job, I had nowhere to go. And was looking for the Howard players. And boom, met Vera Katz, my Jewish mother. She let me out of her classes, and that was the beginning of my acting studies and my acting career in 1987 by this time. And it all took off from there.
Wow. Did you end up taking like regular classes once you started? Because you started right away working on shows and movies, and did you do much theater? But at the beginning of it, besides.
Well, at that point, I started apartheid. Unfortunately, was a big deal. And Nelson Mandela was still in prison at that time. And I got involved with some very political people that were fighting against apartheid. So my first play that I did outside, it was at the Sanctuary Theater, which is a church. It was called Tied Apart, a play on words.
Yeah.
And I played a South African named Temba, which means builder.
Okay.
And from there, I got a lot of attention from all the political people that was like, oh, they actually thought I was South African at that time. So, and then, it was a small town. Then I got invited to the other George Washington University play readings, Folger. Never got into Folger because Andre Braugher was already there. He was the king at that time. You know who Andre Braugher is?
Yeah.
Yeah. He was already the Othello guy there.
Right.
So there was no place for me. And I got the attention of my mentor, Diane Houston, who created a company called the City Kids Repertory. She got a job there. She didn't create the foundation, which is still doing very well today in New York, helping distressed and underprivileged kids in New York, all over New York.
Wow.
In fact, Malik Yoba from New York Undercover, several, Lisa Nicole Carson from Alabama Bill Days, a lot of strong actors have come out of my repertoire that I was a part of in 1988. So I auditioned in New York and never left. Went to New York in 1988, started doing commercials, voiceovers for Code 45, start seeing a lot of checks working for One Life to Live, all that stuff. And then did a movie with Forrest Whitaker called Strap for HBO.
Okay.
And he sent the movie, like I would do for anyone else making movies, he sent the rough cut to this man named Spike Lee.
I've heard of Spike Lee.
Yeah.
Roger, have you heard of Spike Lee?
Yeah, the guy that's Spike Lee. So Spike Lee saw me in one scene and wanted to know why he didn't know me, because he thought I was talented.
Yeah.
And from that point, he hunted me down through Robbie Reed, who ended up becoming my manager as a casting director in here, sought me out, had me come and audition for against everybody, Cuba Gooding Jr., Bokeem Woodbine, Leon, everybody was going for this one role in Crooklyn. I got it, and that was the beginning of my Spike Lee tenure.
What was that movie called?
Crooklyn.
Crooklyn. I've never seen that movie.
Yeah, it's a wonderful movie for children.
Yeah.
A child's point of view. Fantastic movie. And one of my favorites out of Spike Lee's. And then after that, we got a little darker.
But that was like your first. Was that your first
Universal
big,
Pictures movie?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you remember? I mean, that time of that, around that. Did you know it was going to be as big? Like, obviously, I mean, it was a big production. It's Spike Lee at that point. Like, but did you know that it was going to make such a big splash?
Well, good question. In 1986, my lowest point of nadir, I was sitting in a Wendy's before, hungry, didn't have the money, sat in the Wendy's for about 2 hours, and smelled the burgers, and then pretended I eat. And that's when I figured that, I asked God, seriously. I have no idea what I'm doing. I am not going back to Houston, Texas. I am not going to fail. I'm not going back home. I'm just not. So God, if you show me what it is that I should be doing with my life, I promise you I will become the best at it as I possibly can. And that was the moment that I saw a piece of paper below bow as I was going back to my empty apartment. And it had backstage on it.
Yeah.
And I went and auditioned to be a dancer in Can-Can, and I didn't know how to dance. And he said, can you do a batma? I didn't know what a batma was at the time.
I still don't know what a batma is. What is a batma?
It's a kick. Can you do a pirouette? Can you do this? Can you do that? And I was so god-awful trying to watch the other dancers and pretend I was doing it, trying to act my way through it, and it was just BS. And the guy was looking at me like, oh my God, you're horrible. Can you just do a cartwheel already? And I was like, Jesus, yes. Okay, go back and give me a cartwheel. And I did a pretty good. Says, now you're not a dancer. You may be handsome enough to become an actor, but you're not a dancer. Get the hell out of here and never waste my time again. And what's your name again? I said Isaiah. He said, Isaiah what? I said, Isaiah Washington. He said, you should change your name.
Okay.
That was the beginning of my career.
I don't even know why we just heard that dance routine. My dance routine, I danced for Madonna. But mine was much nicer. Mine was much nicer. I showed up, and then with my first day, one of my first auditions in LA, actually, my buddy was a dancer.
What year is this?
90. 1990.
You were right at the height of it.
I was at the height of her world tour.
Okay, get to it. How did it go?
Whatever. Anyway,
what did you have on?
I
knew what they made me wear.
I came in with pretty much with what you're wearing, straight from Kansas, right? Except
God!
I had a flannel on, other than with my boots and my jeans, and so all these dancers out were stretching, doing all this stuff, and my buddy signs in, and then the lady goes, "Are you here as well for the audition?" And I was like, for Madonna? Yes, Madonna. I'm like, oh, sure, yes.
Oh, you was just making it up?
No, yes.
Oh, you were going there too?
I just was with him. I just went along to the audition with him. I didn't have the audition. Okay, but then she signed me in. So then I did have the audition. Now I'm looking around again in my boots. I did not have the hat on, but and we go in, and it's like a very small room, almost like this size, a little bit bigger than our podcast room. And there's 10 dancers. 10 dancers, Madonna, and her 2 backups. And she's going, this is going to be super simple. She does her little thing, and then I'm like, I'm in the back. I'm like kind of creeping in the back, right? Because I'm trying to stay out of people's eyesights, these lines of eyesights. I've only been in town 2 weeks, 3 weeks, maybe, something like this.
And then what happened?
And then I do it, and I'm horrible. As it was the robot, it was the Running Man, it was all that stuff.
Do you have footage?
No, I don't have footage.
I'll find it. I know some people. I'll find it.
And I was horrible. And then she goes, "Okay, we're gonna cut 5 of you guys and keep 5. Who should we cut? Who should we cut?" As a joke, she's saying this, and she goes, and then somebody says, "Well, how about the white guy?" She goes. So I'm like. So I stand off the side, and they do it again. Afterwards, they all leave, and I'm like, just, oh my gosh. And she shakes my hand, and she goes, "Thank you so much for making my day. You're the best part of my day today." And I was like, thank you, Madonna. No vulgarity, none of that that happened to you. I don't know what.
It was New York.
This is right. This
Let's
is
not
Los
bring
Angeles.
the gay community into this, okay? I'll get hit with that. I'm like, it was New York, 1988.
This is right. This is right. This is 1990. So hey, it's 2 years later. Where people were.
We all cuss.
Anyways,
we all cuss back then.
Right, we don't do it anymore. All right, so all right, here we go. I'm sweating right now. All right, so we're back with, so you get into acting. You're obviously not a dancer. So Spike Lee, so you do that movie. At which point in time does it change? Does it change for you in your, I've made it moment? Obviously, you took yourself back to McDonald's. Lord, please help me to do this, right? And then you started getting jobs. Sorry, Wendy's. Mm-hmm. You started getting jobs. Mm-hmm. Commercial money starts rolling in. Was it a natural thing at that point? Did you ever feel like you had crossed over and made it?
Those are 3 questions. I did train because I was so embarrassed and I don't like to lose, I did become a pretty good dancer. And my dancing career, I started tap dancing, jazz dancing, and I used to watch this movie with Barishnikov and Gregory Hines.
White Knights.
White Knights, I
Knights.
believe. And I watched that movie. He got up to like 8 PK turns, right? I got up to 10 and fell in an orchestra pit and split my gluteus maximus.
Not the one that was shot, though.
The other hip. This is actually this.
Same hip?
I tore my same side, yeah.
It hadn't healed. It hadn't healed right from the bullet wound.
And that was the end of my burgeoning dancing jazz career. And then at that point, I became a carpenter at the Negro Ensemble Company in New York. And I was
when did you have time to do carpentry in between all the acting?
Because I wasn't getting any acting work. I was just focusing on musical theater at the time because I went back to prove myself to the
Right. I'm going to be amazing.
I'm going to win. So I started taking dance classes, but it didn't. I got hurt and that didn't work out. So now I had to rely on just being an actor. And I saw this guy on stage as I'm running the soundboard, and I stepped over him in an alley, and he had like a do the right thing dirty jacket on. I like bumped over this homeless. I'm like, what the? Like, get out of here, you bum! Like, who is this guy? Disgusting New York. Turn the lights up. I see this guy with these yellow eyes. I'm like, ugh, Lion King. It comes in. It's Sam Jackson, former little crackhead.
No way.
Yeah.
Wow.
He talks about it.
Right.
He was kind of going through a moment and saw the most incredible performance with this other actor called Rain or Shine. And I said to myself, that's not an actor. Like, I just saw this guy. I just saw he's not an actor. He's homeless. This guy's not an actor. They were like, what are you doing? This is Sammy Jackson. The most incredible performance I had ever seen on stage in my life. And this is before the world knew who he was. At the Negro Ensemble. And it was like based on the antebellum South. He was playing this credible monologue. And I said to myself, I want to be like that guy. Right. I want to be like that guy. And then I started studying movies, and I fell in love with Gary Oldman. So Sam Jackson and Denzel Washington, those were my guys and Robert De Niro and Al Pacino, of course, Robert Duvall. Those were my inspirations on how I wanted to become a character actor for film and stage actor at that time. How do I make myself smaller and still be big? Right?
Did you do Broadway?
Never got to Broadway.
Still haven't done it yet. Well, you're retired, but he's not really retired. He'll come back for Broadway.
That's a lot of work. 8 shows a day on the board.
Oh, I don't even understand all that.
It's a lot of work. I mean, it's very honorable. It's very dignified, but
seems like a lot of work.
My feet hurt now with these boots, man. I don't.
Well, you're wearing boots.
Yeah, I'm not interested. That's a lot of work. 8 shows.
Did he consider orthotics in those boots?
I guess so. Probably should. These are pretty good boots. But
does anybody wear orthotics if you wear boots? Like, or is that just like, oh?
I almost said something, but I'm not going to say it because I definitely going to have to cut that out. Our episode's going to be about 22 minutes where we cut everything out. Yeah. You definitely have to cut this out.
All right. Well, you got to talk a little bit about. So, how many movies did you do with Spike Lee first?
At the time when I was in school under the tutelage of Vera Katz, who still gives me notes. He's still alive. She's in her 80s.
Wow.
The lovely Vera Katz. I call her my Jewish mother. She sent me over to my mentor called Harry Poe that was part of the Ebony Impromptu Theater in Washington, D.C., and he introduced me to Diane Houston that brought me to New York to be a part of City Kids repertory. Now, at that point, when I did the movie with Forrest Whitaker, which is his directorial debut called Strap for HBO, I didn't have any offers or opportunities for other Hollywood films. And my mentor, Harry Poe, said, because of your mouth and because of who you are, there's only 3 ways you're going to be able to break into Hollywood. Because they're not going to like you. And I said, what is that? He said, Spike Lee. And I said, oh, okay, what's the second way? Spike Lee.
You have to do Spike Lee
I'm like,
films?
What's the third way I'm going to get into Hollywood? He said Spike Lee. So basically, God rest his soul, he said that it would take 3 Spike Lee movies before I get the attention of Hollywood. And that's exactly what happened.
Wow.
It's exactly what happened because Hollywood has a strange habit then and still that they weren't really comfortable with having more than one Negro that was interesting on screen. And right now, my name happened to be Washington. They were already branding this other guy named Denzel Washington. Yeah. And actually, Naisha's told me, we don't want to confuse the public. So we're going to just, when his career is over, you can have one. Then this guy named Will Smith showed up and then said, oh, yeah, when his career over, then you can get the roles.
Oh, my goodness.
And I'm like, he's still working. Like, I'm supposed to sit around and
do you know Denzel very well?
No, I met him once. He was my idol from 1986 to 1996.
Yeah.
I had the beautiful opportunity to be starring in the movie, Girl 6, opposite Teresa Randall, and he was on the set because he knew Teresa Randall. So I was like, oh my God, it's like Jesus in the room. It's like, oh God. And at the premiere, he was walking towards me, and I was like, oh God. It was almost like everybody's like, part the room, part the room. There's the Washingtons are coming.
Yeah.
And I just had this vision that, I'm going to one day starring Denzel Washington, Isaiah Washington. And he walks up to me, and I'm like, oh God, my hero is coming to me to meet me. And he says, where your people from? And I said, my father's side is from Richmond, Virginia. That's probably where the Washington name comes from, And we laughed about that, and he says, "Do you ever think about changing your last name?"
What?
And I'm like, "No." He says, "Because I've already branded Washington. I've already branded that. Maybe you should change your last name." And I said,
"Was he serious?"
I thought I was supposed to be offended.
Well, or laugh at it, right?
And laugh at it?
It's a joke.
No,
right?
it wasn't. He was dead serious. And
Wow.
here's why. He was letting me know how small Hollywood thinks.
Yeah, it's an interesting. Yeah, was it actually like a compliment to say? Hey, by the way,
yeah. He's like, he was actually giving me advice. Like maybe you should go like Isaiah, like Leon, or Prince. I thought it was offensive.
Yeah.
In 1996.
Yeah.
But in 2023, I completely understand what he was saying about branding.
Yeah.
Right?
Interesting.
I mean, imagine if I wanted to change my last name to White suddenly. That would be probably a problem.
To White?
To White.
I mean,
wanted to do a bunch of
Isaiah White?
I
think that could work.
Faith-based movies.
I don't have a brand on White.
Isaiah Washington starting in, Jesus Not Dead. I think you probably make a call. Bro. I'm the one put you in God's Not Dead 4.
It seems a little
now you
want
to change your name to Isaiah White?
Share your name. He couldn't share. But he actually had a premonition for that.
He's a very spiritual person too.
Yeah,
very spiritual person. And like and at the time I was like, because I didn't,
You've never talked to him since, though.
No.
Interesting. I would love to hear that conversation. The next one.
I'm looking for. I met him in Canada. And he, again, I learned so much from him, just sitting in the trailer with him. I mean, I've met him 3 times, and then there was the other time I met him. It was in a club. I'm not going to get to that one. And he was like, yeah. It was really cool. But he's always been cool. But, I also knew that I was being seen as a competitor.
Yeah.
The older I got, so to speak,
All right, Grey's Anatomy, how did you enjoy it? Because that, obviously, you changed that show. Did you come on the first season, the pilot of that season, or was it like in first?
No, I wasn't supposed to be there at all. And that was made very clear to me by Peter Horton when I got there.
What does that even mean? You weren't supposed to be there. Somebody hired you.
Well, Patrick right? Dempsey was considered pilot poison. He was a failure pretty much in television.
Okay.
Although he had gray hair, much like yourself.
Yeah. Thanks.
So, so they needed him to work. And I would have been a distraction because it was his time. His buddy Stephen Fierstein was a good old Irish buddy, and I sort of got in the way. I was passed over. I was supposed to be Dr. Shepard and play the brain surgeon, and I went in with a beard, much larger hair, afro.
Right.
And Shonda wanted me to be like a Ben Carson-esque kind of character in this interracial relationship that she thought was timely and time to show. And Ellen at the time was dating her, was not husband, black husband at the time, was oh God, my boyfriend is back. I can't have you be my love interest in the show. And she was vocal about that. And I kind of thought that was odd because I'm married now.
Yeah.
Deeply in love with my wife. It's weird acting. Like, it just started off weird. It's kind of like you always say.
Was it the pilot first season? Did you do the first? Okay, so
no, I was pushed out. I was not hired. Paul Adelstein was the original Dr. Burke, who I finally met in Vancouver.
Oh.
He's an actor. Paul Adelstein was already cast as Dr. Burke, I think first before Patch Redemption, because they went to Rob Lowe. Rob Lowe, was a mistake, said no.
Yeah.
It was a straight offer. He's like, I don't want to be a doctor.
That sounds like a terrible show, yeah.
But he ended up, I think, going on ER, right? And doing fairly well. So I thought it was over. And I was really disappointed. I thought I had a great meeting. I begged to audition. My agents didn't want me to audition because they felt like I had all these movies. We don't know who Shonda Rhimes is. I said, I don't care who she is.
Yeah.
She can write. And I did my research on it. She wrote Introducing You to Dorothy Dandruff, which got Halle Berry her first Golden Globe. So I said, if she can write that well and create such an incredible character that most of the world don't know about, and it was a fantastic performance by Halle Berry, I think one of her best ever. I want to be in business with that person.
Right.
So I got paid $10,000 not to audition. They say, if this is about money, we're going to make you a movie star, you're not doing TV. Now, you're talking about a time, 2004, where to do television, that was considered failure. As an actor.
It was going backwards from what you were doing.
It was a lateral. It was going backward, and then next after that, you were on a soap opera. No disrespect. I don't want to be sued by soap opera stars. I love soap operas. But that was the
mentality of
the mentality at that time.
Had George Clooney gone back to TV, or had he left? No, but he started in TV, then went to movies.
He was, not really making a lot of noise
at that point
until he got that role, and then Out of Sight, which I did with him, and I saw him become a star. I'm not gonna tell that story, but it's a true story. It's like he had a habit of doing that, and I remember Steven Spielberg screaming and like, "Would you stop shaking your head?" And he became a star. Because he's gorgeous. Let's just face it.
Good-looking guy.
And that's all you needed.
I mean, he's not as attractive as Roger, but,
Well, I'm not going to get into that. Thank you. Now we're going to...
All right, so wait. So at the beginning, so you were on at the beginning of the show of Grey's Anatomy.
No, I was not. I was...
So how did you get there then?
That's what I'm saying. Paul Adelstein was booked with a movie with George Clooney. He could no longer be a part. When they got their act together and started to shoot, they had to go. When they're ready to go, they're ready to go. When then you never know. Yeah. Right? It's TV. So he couldn't come back. He had a conflict.
Okay.
So I got a secret call from Shonda saying, "Do you still want to be a doctor?" I was on my way to NBC to do this pilot where I ended up playing a cop, a detective, right?
Okay.
Didn't want to do that. Didn't want to at that time.
Was that based in New York too? And you're like,
I didn't want to go back. I didn't want to go back to New York. Yeah, you got it. And I'm like, no. Yeah, and I was on my way.
I'll operate on some people.
Yeah, I was on my way to that meeting, and my agent Ben Press calls me and says, "What are you doing?" I said, "I'm going through security here." Apparently, he's like, "Turn around." I'm like, I'm like, "What's going on, man?" He said, "Do you still want to put on a doctor's coat?" I'm like, "What are you talking about?" He says, "Shonda wants you. The offers come through. They want you on the show."
Nice.
I'm like, what? So I go to security, and the guy's looking at me, and I stood the people up. To this day, I'm like, what? He never took the meeting, and the rest was history. On day one, I was not welcomed because they thought they had gotten rid of me, and it was said to my face on day one at the read-through, "I thought we got rid of you."
So it was like this whole inner working of just not
very political. TV at that time was TV in general was very political. I didn't know that. If I'd have known that. If I'd known it was like a corporate structure, man, I'd have kissed them all. I really played it cool. I just thought I was here because I was talented and had a good resume. I didn't know you had to do all the juggling of personalities. I know now, but my God, it was a great lesson. But I've been in the military. I've been in the corporate sector. I know how to behave. I know how to do that. But I didn't think that's what I was there for. But that's what it is. That's what it became. Why? Because you make a lot of money in television.
Yeah.
And you're representing a lot of sponsors. So they got to feel okay with you and know that, they love you, like you. And sponsors like me a lot. So when I wasn't coming back, when you have Procter & Gamble call you directly and go, "Hey, we're not giving them any money unless you come back."
That's great. They just needed to tell the people that, I guess.
It's a good story. I might do a podcast about it one day to really tell them what that was all about. The good news is all the craziness that went on, it wasn't so much about what I did, what I said, or what it was. It's that I wasn't wanted And I understand why. Because in movies, and I take it personally, not because in movies you have a stronger actor in something and he's in more scenes. We call it unbalanced movie. Because now the lead star is no longer interesting because you got this little scene stealer over here that they want to see more of. And if you don't see more of them, then they're going to be like, I want to see an ensemble of talent. I don't want to just see one or two. And television was like a very interesting. Like you only could afford 1 or 2 stars not because they wanted it to be that way. It was just fiscally their budget was like I can only have 1 star and a male and female and pay them on the first tier, and then the second tier, and the third tier. I with Sandra Oh, we busted that business model up because now you got 4 people that are very interesting on this show, which means we got to put 4 people on the first tier. So it really wasn't about me. It was about the fact that I don't want to pay all these people.
How, all right, so this always happens to me. They tell me to wrap up.
Told you not to get into all that.
Well, I mean, my gosh, I got 12 more pages to go through. All right, well, let's just talk about this really quick. So, God's Not Dead, thanks for saying yes to it. You got to do this in a minute somehow. And joining us on God's Not Dead, We the People.
Great character. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, well, you were wonderful in it, and I appreciate you doing it. Will you come back and do more God's Not Dead, do you think?
Well, like I said, I think that there's a God Not Dead 6 and 7 in here because I really see the character, Pastor White becoming the president of the United States. That's not going to happen in God's Not Dead 5 or 6, but 7. And 7 is a good number. 7 is a good number.
7's a good number to become president of the United States.
And I can see Congressman Daryl Smith as the vice president. And then from there, you're assassinated.
That's kind of interesting.
You're assassinated.
Right, of course.
And then now the whole franchise goes on with President Daryl Smith for the next 8 years. Did that work in a minute?
So you're saying by God's Not Dead 8, I will be out?
Just collect the checks, man. And by the time we get to 16, we'll both be in the Bahamas laughing all the way to the Euro Bank.
All right, so tell me this. They're playing me music. I've been written out of God's Not Dead 8, I've heard, by Isaiah Washington.
Oh, that's not going to happen.
No, I've been retired. But I've retired.
But
the Bahamas with you, apparently.
You'll come back as a ghost.
Oh,
and advise me. Jesus.
Isaiah Washington, last words. Eddie, you want people to go to your podcast? Where do you want people to go? What are we promoting today?
I want people to be safe. I want them to be prayerful. We got a lot of serious stuff that's happening in this world. Seriously, a lot of serious stuff that's happening. I want them to be safe. I want them to love each other. I want them to laugh.
You always are an encouragement to me, and I love you, and I thank you for being part of the God's Not Dead franchise, and I look forward to doing a lot of other things with you. I sure hope. So I hope that you'll keep getting one step out of retirement. You don't always have to be...
It's not about me. It's about 160,000 others, all collectively actors that are being harmed unjustly because of self-interest, and that's unfortunate. I've seen this before, but that's unfortunate. But we're going to pray and get through this strike. We did it in 2008, the 100 days, and we're going to pray that this one is not 200 days, because if it is, that's going to be problematic for all of us.
Yeah. All right. Isaiah Washington, always a pleasure. I love your hat.
Thank you.
I'm wrapping up. Roger. Man, Roger's over here just in case you can't see us right now, just, flogging us with, I think he took a picket sign that's out front and he rewrote it and said, "Wrap up!" All right, guys, thanks for watching. And we appreciate you. As always, we are on Spotify, iHeartRadio, iTunes, and right here on YouTube. So if you want to see Isaiah's hat, I for sure would tune in. All right, God bless you guys. Have a good one.